Hello, everybody, and welcome to Go Big with Mika. I'm Mika Gobig, and I am a confidence expert. And my mission is to really help women in male-dominated industries, in tech and others, to lead with confidence. Today, I am super excited to be talking to Trina Sherman. So I pronounced that correctly. I just wanted to make that clear. It's spelled with an I, but it's pronounced Trina.
Yep.
So for all of you watching, and I'm super excited to talk to Trina. She's a coach these days. And helps amazing women to do amazing things, moving the needle forward in the world. And but she also has a very inspiring backstory, how she came to do what she's doing today. And the phrase we chose for this conversation is choose yourself. And Trina, maybe you can start us off by talking a little bit about why this phrase matters so much to you.
All right. Thank you, Mika. I appreciate this opportunity to spend this time with you and the audience, and thank those who've joined. And yeah, the reason choose yourself means so much to me is because I found myself faced with some serious decisions that I needed to make in my life. As I've shared with you in the past, I was a survivalist. I knew how to survive. I knew how to get from point A to point B, hold my head down, get it going, raising children, dealing with a marriage, becoming the parent of an ailing parent is what I call it.
Mhm.
It's a paradigm shift, a mental shift to get to a point where your parent is dependent on you and the struggles that go along with that, having business and just becoming even as a child, becoming an overachiever, focusing on academics and getting straight A's and graduating college with honors and going into corporate America. Everything I did, I felt that I had to do it at the highest level because that's where my value came from.
Mhm. Mhm.
And eventually, at some point, I found that I was giving everything to what I thought I should do, what I needed to do, what others required of me to do, and got to a point where I realized that I'd lost myself.
Mhm.
Where was Trina? Where are you? What are you? Where do you exist? Where are your real desires, wants? How are you taking care of yourself? And had a small health scare that really, in the loss of my mother, watching her pass, really woke me up to say, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And are you going to continue to do for others, which is awesome? And there's value in it to be a nurturer and to be a giver. And I value that part of who I am. And at the same time, you can also choose to live the life you're called to. And that's
Mhm.
what I found is that I got to find this place that I am now by choosing myself. I got to do both things. I get to be a coach, I get to be a mother, I get to be a friend, I get to be a partner in a relationship. I get to do all those things, still be a nurturer and a giver, and at the same time be a giver to myself, to do the things that I want to do, to wake up every day feeling fulfilled, exciting to put my foot on the ground and see what the day offers me ahead. So that's the backstory, pretty
Mhm.
much, and I'm excited to share more insights.
Yeah, yeah. There are so many points I want to talk more about. Maybe let's start with one that I feel everybody who coaches women or works a lot with women sees so often that we consider it almost like a natural state, like this putting others ahead, because putting yourself first is kind of selfish. There's this idea of selfishness. I think sometimes I introduce myself and say I want to make women more selfish, in a good way, right?
Mhm.
So um, there's a lot of social conditioning in there. How do you recommend people look at that? And as I say, people, we have an audience here, so if you are watching this, please share your questions. I might dive into things that are not exactly what you want to know from Trina. So please share your questions. When we see them, we'll talk about them. And if not, we will get back to you after this broadcast if there's something else. But yeah, so there's this thing between being a carer and being nurturing people, being caregiving in a certain way, versus the I'm selfish if I put myself first. The oxygen mask first. I think that's a tricky one, because the moment you put on your oxygen mask, that you are already in a catastrophe.
True. And
Right? So
yeah, that's common knowledge now that everyone is saying, put your own oxygen mask on. And you're right, there's conditioning around,
yeah.
especially women, that if we take care of ourselves, we're somehow being selfish.
Mm.
Even I found that I was celebrated for being sacrificial. Like I
Yeah.
should, to
Yeah.
say, oh, wow, look at Trina. She's such an awesome person. She gives to everybody. She doesn't think about herself. And it hit me once that, wow, I heard that as in a congratulatory way, but
Hmm.
realized that that's not necessarily good, because even in me doing that, for the nurturing that I wanted to give, I wasn't given to my highest potential because I wasn't my full self. So
Right.
even there's also, if my heart's desire is to serve and to give and to support others, in order for me to do that, I need a full tank. And it's
Yes.
hard to give from an empty tank. And so
Yes.
I would want to encourage everyone to think of it from that perspective as well, is what do you need to do to fill your tank
Hmm.
so that you're more capable and you're in a better position to do what it is that you feel you're called to, that you desire to do in your support of others.
So how do you fill your tech? Or how
Well,
did you make that transition? What were the first, today you're pro at this, but how did you start when you just were at the point where you had those realizations? How did you start filling your tech?
well, first of all, I'll say I don't know that I would say I'm a pro. I'm a
Well,
work in progress. I would have to, in all
yes.
humility, say I'm a work
Uh,
in progress. I'm so much further than I've ever been before, but I will
mhm.
be honest, and I don't want to give the impression to anyone that this is a final destination, that
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
growth
yeah.
for life, that life will continue to send things your way, that you get to check in and say, where am I now and where can I go next? One of the first things that I did was look at my life from the end backwards.
Hmm.
So, as I said, watching my mother's mother at the end of life, I looked and I thought, okay, when I get to end of my life, what would I like to feel? What would I like to have seen in my life? What would I like
Yeah.
to have done? And then I backed it up and said, I want to make sure when I get there, I don't have the regret of never giving myself a chance to see who I could be.
Hmm.
Never give.
I that reminds me of a quote from a coach we've both worked with, Rich Litvin. A goal is a place to come from and not to go to. I
Right.
think that's the idea. Um, so when you considered these things, what were the first things that came up for you in this journey?
Oh,
When you think
sorry
about,
about that. Somehow my mic muted. I apologize.
okay, no worries, you're back on. I can hear you.
What happened?
Yeah, I can hear you. You cannot hear me. Oops. You should be good. Can you hear me now? Must be on your side, because here I just muted and unmuted you. Oops.
Hey, Mika, can you hear me? Yeah,
I
I can't hear
can.
you though. Sorry.
Hmm. All right. Um, maybe you just. How about you hop off very briefly and then hop on again? Hmm. So I hope we will have Trina back in a moment. Um, as long as she's gone, let me tell you a little bit about how that journey looks for me. It's a little different for me. Might resonate with a few. Oh no, there she's back. Let's bring her back on.
Oh, I don't know what
Can you hear
happened.
me again?
I
Yeah,
think
I just kicked you from the studio, so you could. So okay, so let's get back to that. What were the first things you found about yourself? Your intuition told you the first things where you said like, this is something I definitely want in my life, in addition to nurturing people and being a helper.
yeah. Well, one of the first things I did was really bold and took a lot of courage. Was that I realized that um, my marriage was not working for me,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and I asked for a divorce, and that was really, really a tough decision. As
And
a
that's
nurse,
huge. That's
yeah.
huge.
I
Yeah,
have 3 daughters,
yeah.
and the impact that I knew that my choices would have upon them
Mm-hmm.
was a very heavy burden. To take, and it took courage, and that's my
Yeah.
word. That
Oh yeah.
when you speak of confidence, I had no idea that I would be able to do it. I didn't know what was going to be on the other side of it. So that was a step. And then I owned a company with my ex-husband that really did not fit me. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I knew it from the beginning, but I again went down that path, and it took a lot out of me. And
Just for our audience, there was a transportation company you ran.
yes, it
Mm-hmm.
was. And as I said, I was an overachiever. So I went in, I threw myself in. I worked 10, 12 hours a day. I learned a business I didn't understand, and I made it took us to great profitability and growth. But at the end of the day, it was draining me. It drained my energy. It took my joy away. And so I got to a point with that I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. We're either going to sell the company or I'm closing the doors. And we were
Mm-hmm.
blessed to be able to sell that company. And then I moved out of that. I took a trip to Israel shortly thereafter at the beginning of the pandemic, and didn't know we kind of collided with the pandemic and the world shutting down. But at that point, for me, it was a time to step away, reevaluate, recheck, and came back and then began the journey. What do I do next? What do I love doing? And out of everything I've ever done, it's working with people and helping them reach their full potential. And so then I searched into going into psychology, get my master's, and then intuitively dropped into my mind. Um, Through my faith, I believe God sent me that answer to say,
Mm-hmm.
look into coaching. I did that, joined a coaching program, and it's been phenomenal ever since. It gets to take everything that I am and that matters to me, my gifts, my talents, my passions, the impact that I want to have in the world, combine them all together, and has given me my purpose. And so those are the quick points of how that went. But there were ups and downs all along the way, lots of doubts
Yeah.
and pain and hurt and joy and everything. It was a smorgasbord of emotions and experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's huge decisions, right?
Mhm.
Just leaving a marriage, struggling with this. Okay, this is what my intuition tells me, but I have 3 kids to think of,
Mhm.
and saying goodbye to a career just because it didn't fit, right? I mean, I think I was still raised not with the idea of doing something professionally that fit me. I mean,
Mhm.
as far as certain abilities are concerned, sure, but this idea that it also fulfills me, I don't think that was really a thing that anybody told me when I was young.
Absolutely. No, I tell people I went to college in the 80s, and it was really, go to college, get a
Mhm.
degree, get a job,
Yeah,
a career, get married, I laugh. I said back then it was 2.5 kids was the average, a dog, a white picket fence, and you're living, and that's life. And then you
yeah,
wait until you're about 60 some years old to retire and then start living and doing the things you really want to do. And now we're all coming to understand that we don't have to wait. We get to have it. We can have the joy of living fulfilled lives and having impact in doing the things that we're really good at.
That's something for me. I don't have children. I don't know how old your children are, but I feel that is something our generation can learn from the millennials. They are so much better at that. They have certain shared values in that generation that point them in that direction that we struggle so much to learn a little earlier. Maybe not all of them, of course. I mean,
Right.
that would be too general, but as a generational value, I think that self-care and purpose and those things are a lot higher on the
Oh,
list than they were for us. It was just like, do the things.
yeah. Follow the rules, do what you're supposed to do. Absolutely. My daughters are all grown. They're 30, 27, and 21. So my
Hmm.
youngest is a rising senior at in college. So yeah, they're definitely about who am I, what do I want, what am I passionate about. They're not about living in the box.
Hmm.
They're about stretching the parameters, and you're correct. I get to learn a lot from them. They motivate me. They get me to, for myself, to even stretch even further, to be an example for them, and them be examples for me because they inspire me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wondering, so someone who sees that as like, oh my God, she took huge decisions. I don't want to do that. I know it's not really, I'm not where I could be, or there's something, I know there's something missing, but I don't want to leave my job and marriage right now.
Right.
So what when you work with clients or when you talk to people you meet or friends,
Mhm.
uh what are ways for people to choose themselves that maybe do not require that type of courage, or maybe are just not right for them?
Right. Well, when I work with people, it's really working with them and meeting them where they are. So I don't have a prescribed method or path that one should take. As a coach, I work with people to find out what it is that they really want, because
Mhm.
I believe we all have the answers within ourselves. So I have no clue. It would be presumptuous of me to tell someone this is what you need to do, but you get to choose, and that's the point. It's about choosing. It's about making conscious choices. You can make the choice to stay married, or you can make the choice to not stay married, but be consciously making your choice. That it is your decision, that you're not operating from default, that you're not just going along with the norms, but you're choosing yourself by saying, I get to check in with myself and determine what is the best fit for me today. Because I made those choices all along the way. We're just hearing the end of the story where I made the choice to make these hard choices. But I made the choice every day to continue going to that work because it's what needed to happen for me at that time, until I got to a point where it no longer served me and I wanted to make a different choice. So I don't want people to think that they have to choose tough, hard decisions necessarily. They get to choose which decisions work best for them.
What just came to mind for me is there's a lot of those norms and standards, but a lot of them for us, they manifest in expectations from certain family members.
Mhm.
And I think, I mean, it's not by chance that a lot of people who step out taking big decisions for themselves do that after a grieving period,
Mhm.
after losing someone, like in your case, your mother. For me, I dropped out of my PhD program after my father had died because I knew it wasn't right for me, but there was no way I would drop out of my PhD program with my father alive. Though
Yeah.
I don't think he would have minded. It was like there was an expectation for me to have that PhD, but it was probably more what I adopted as an expectation at
Yeah.
a certain point.
Yeah, I think we all pick up those expectations and those parameters through which we live from. And it, like you said, those are the triggers that are stimulus that made us make some difficult changes in our lives. And I think that's the beauty of coaching,
Mhm.
is that a coach helps interrupt the pattern. So it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be some external force that comes in and shakes you, that came in for me, that had to shake me because I hadn't noticed along the way, but I got shaken. But the beauty of coaching is that you get to sit and look, have someone look at a 360-degree view with you and get and interrupt some patterns, some thought patterns, some limiting beliefs, some
Yeah.
assumptions that you're making. And then once you kind of interrupt the pattern, then you have the vision possibly to see more clearly of where you would want to go without having to have major life changes.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, the pattern I see a lot. So I'm interested in your take, uh, because we both primarily work with women or only work with women. The pattern I see, you've mentioned the high achieving a few times now, is learning. So most women I work with, when they get out of their comfort zone or they get in a place where they know this is not working for me, uh, their their first instinct, their first impulse is, I need another degree. I need to learn. I need to do my research. I need to do my homework in whichever way. It's all around that learning, and that's a pattern that takes quite some effort to interrupt because of course girls tend to be better in school. They tend to be academically advanced earlier than the boys who are a little later about that. And we usually get rewarded by our parents or teachers or other adults in our lives for not causing trouble, being good students, those things. What I hear a lot is, for instance, like, yeah, well, like these things like, don't cause trouble, your brother is difficult enough, uh those type of things. Sorry for guys watching that. It's just, this is generalizing, but I see that as a major pattern. That's why I often talk about unlearning. I
Yes.
wonder what your take is, what you see with people you work with, that MO of, okay, I'll just put the head down and study again, as this is my problem solver. This is what I can know how to do.
Right.
And when that is not right anymore.
Yeah, well, I think it falls into the pattern of, again, like you said, we want to learn, and that's a good thing.
Hmm.
Learning is good to equip you
Yeah.
to be a lifelong learner, to never stop learning, but not use learning as an excuse to not take steps forward. And I think that fits in what I've found. It fits into that we're always seeking confidence, which is good,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
confidence comes from experience. So when we're constantly seeking to just find confidence, sometimes it requires courage to step out without knowing.
Right.
That you may
Right.
not know that it's going to be okay. You may not know if you know enough. But
Yeah.
step out and take the chance. And that's where courage comes in. And that's what I like working around, is the courageous mindset, is
Hmm.
really being willing to step out. So you're correct. And then to interrupt that pattern, I found that works is to say, really dissect and really let's analyze, what is it that you really need to do what you're wanting to do next?
Yeah.
And what do you already have? Because most times, if you're being called forward to something, you probably have a whole lot more experience and in data and ability and potential already stored up that can help you, but you're not aware of it. So again, that's where the coaching would come in. Is that let's sit down and let's look at that. Look what you already have in your arsenal. What's all already in your tool belt that you can
Yeah.
use to support yourself, and then continue learning as you go. Well, let's step out and let's take one step forward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the confidence that relies on taking action at a certain point. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I like that. I have that marked here on my sheet. You mentioned in your resume the confidence to consistently step out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
and and that is like, confidence is my big topic. So that comfort zone thing, how do I, when I'm not used to doing this work, what's the feeling usually that it tells me I'm reaching the border, the limits of my comfort zone. How can people identify that, and what next?
One thing, and when we talk about choosing yourself, that's the first
Mhm.
step to getting toward a fulfilled life and thriving. And then next, of course, find yourself. And what I believe is the third step is trust yourself.
Mhm.
Trust yourself. You know, somewhere in you knows when the time is right. Somewhere in
Yeah.
you is telling you, trust your instincts, trust your intuition, because it's going to lead you in that direction. Whether intellectually you can put all the evidence together and prove that this is going to work, give yourself a chance. And those are the steps that I took. Is like, let's just try. Let's just give myself a chance to
Yeah.
trust myself. And each time I've not proven myself wrong.
Yeah. And even the setbacks, that's just part of it, right? I mean, there's no life without setbacks. There's no life without what we call failure, which is such a mean word.
Yeah, it's about when you have those setbacks, it's still there to teach you something. There's still value in it. You took the step.
Yeah.
That's important. And then once you took the step, you learn some things that can help you take the next step. Because we don't need to be outcome driven, that we can only say it is only valuable if I reach the goal that I initially set out for. Let's seek mastery. Let's seek growing at your full potential. Let's seek being the best that you can be. And the only way to do that is just to continue to take steps, learn from them, and then take another step. Because
Right.
there's no guarantees.
Right. I actually, a sentence that we hear "you are enough" a lot. A sentence that resonates a little more with me in that sphere is "you are not behind.
Hmm.
You are where you're supposed to." That works better for me, because that's kind of, there's still that achiever thing in there. I should have done more. I should, and then just focusing on I am where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
So obviously I'm not behind.
That's good.
That
Yeah.
is that is one that works for me, and I think there's those things are so personal. Everybody has to find theirs.
Right. Yeah. Find what works for you. Each
Yeah,
person find what works for them.
yeah,
But get in, be willing to give yourself a chance to get in the game,
yeah,
because you matter. And that's, I think, one of the important messages is you matter, and you've been put here to live a life of fulfillment. You get to enjoy and experience life in its fullness, and it is possible to do so and carry the be the person that is dependable and supportive of others and responsible, but
yeah.
not at the neglect of yourself.
Yes. Yeah. I would like to ask about two specific things again. First one is tools. What are the tools that help you today, in your in staying the path, more or less staying on the path, and continuing this journey towards, or the journey of thriving instead of simply surviving? What are the tools you apply? I talk a lot about journaling.
Yes,
You you might have very different tools that work for you, so I would like you to share those.
yeah, I definitely have been a journaler through the years. I pray.
Mhm.
Um, I read my Bible. I do a lot of exercise. I've just started Pilates, which has been amazing.
I'm obsessed with Pilates. I'm in a master class now, and it's just like I'm totally obsessed. Yeah.
Yeah, my children gave me a gift for Mother's Day, a trial package, and so I fell in love. So I'm going 4 or 5 days a week sometimes to
Me
Pilates.
too. Yes, yes. It's
It's
great, isn't it?
awesome. I go to
Yeah.
the gym as well to get some extra cardio in. And my daughters, again, we're talking about them motivating you. They've helped to keep me more motivated in that realm. I do a lot of quiet time,
Mhm.
mindfulness
Yeah.
activities, breathing, just quieting my mind, bringing my attention to the present moment, which has been really powerful to help calm the circulating of thoughts through the mind.
Yeah.
And then I do a lot of reading, a
Yeah.
lot of reading, and just trying to find the space between the doing,
Hmm. Yeah.
trying to find the time, and recognize, again, as I said earlier, ways to fill my tank. And so those
Mhm.
are the ways that I choose to fill my tank, and they work for me.
Human being, not human doing, right?
Right. Yeah.
And the second point I would like to touch upon, and that probably rounds off our conversation more or less, is allies.
Okay.
So tools help us, tools and habits help us, but other people may be able to help us too. So I know that allyship is a topic that interests you a lot and that matters a lot to you. Maybe you can touch upon that a little.
Yeah. Because some of the work I focus on with women is about taking their seat at the table
Hmm.
and using their voices powerfully. And in order to do that, that's a two-sided event, or issue, is to work on the individual, helping them build their skills, their mindset, and also recognizing that they need allies to help them on the in professional life or entrepreneurship, to build relationships around that, and learning the importance of it. And as I've shared with you a lot, that I work with those women of color,
Hmm.
um, who are disproportionately not finding those seats at the table.
Yeah,
And at least here in where I am, a lot of
yeah,
the white women are having more of the opportunity
yeah,
to have those positions. And I think there's a great opportunity for women to come together and be allies, as well as us looking toward men who have traditionally held those seats of power to become our allies, because all of us are in this together. We rise and
yeah.
fall together. And I think it's a beautiful place to bring that to the table. Is allyship is important for us to work together, because we can work on ourselves, but if we don't have partners to help open doors and give us clues, because if we don't know what the rules of the game are, it's hard to play.
It is. It is somewhere between hard and impossible.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. What I love to tell people, before the pandemic, when I did a lot of in-person workshops, I always ask people who likes to help. And of course, in a group of 30, there would be 28 hands up at least, right? Probably all
Mhm.
30,
Mhm.
because it makes us so happy to be
Right.
able to do something, even if you're not like defining yourself as a helper. It just, yeah, it makes us happy. And I feel that I sometimes tell women I work with, like, you love to help. Imagine that the other person does too. So by you not asking or by you not accepting, you're actually taking something away from them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's how I try to gently nudge people more towards accepting help, asking for help, because yeah, in the end, we all rise together. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I have one last question.
Okay.
That's my favorite question. What advice would you give your 16-year-old self? Now, you have daughters. I feel like the answer comes a little easier to people who have children.
Yeah.
But
My 16-year-old self, I would say to my 16-year-old, take your time.
yeah,
Take your time to find yourself. So you don't have to wait until you're 50 plus to do so.
yes, yes.
Take your time. It's no rush.
There's no rush. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's so, so important.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. And whoever's watching this, if you were here live or if you're watching the replay and you have any questions, please reach out, just comment and tag us and we'll get back to you, or reach out directly to Trina. Her information is in the comments or in the show notes, and we would love to hear from you. Thank you so much, Trina. That
Well,
was so insightful and inspiring. Thank you.
thank you, Mika, for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thanks. And I'll see you all next week. We're talking about systemizing confidence with Diane Lamb. Very different topic, how systems like in your business can help you feel more confident about going out there and being the badass entrepreneur you are. So that'll be very interesting as well. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.